Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic. You're here for our inaugural, well, I don't know if it's inaugural, but one of the first times that we're doing the video podcast. So join us for that as we break down the AFC North here today. We're going to talk about that division, kicking off the rest. Stick around and join us on the Football Fandemic. And there we go. I'm going to get me back over there in the front. Switch me with Josh. Hey, it's good to see you all here today. We are the Football Fandemic Crew. My name is Matthew Thomas. As you can see, I didn't give myself a title. I forgot to do that. I'll do that here in a moment. We have Brandon Colmark and Joshua Haupt also joining us today. They're always here. They're the co-hosts. And we are on StreamYard, as you can see. If you're listening to the podcast of this, we're on StreamYard, and we're beginning to try this whole video first thing, and we're still going to send it out audio only to the podcast, and that'll happen. That'll go up later, but this is live, and so people can be on here and leave comments. As a matter of fact, if you're here and you're watching and you want to just check in and say, hey, I'm here watching, that's great. Or anytime through this podcast, video cast, if you want to say, hey, I've got a question, or hey, I've got a comment, you can throw that in and we'll see it here, and we can begin to talk about that. But how are you guys doing today here on our first ever video podcast?
I'm doing well. I think I go back to the idea that this is our first official one of a series of longer ones. I think is what we're going for. But we did one a couple of years ago, I think for the 21 draft. We did a live stream on StreamYard. And it turned out well. It was only 9 hours long.
Mm-hmm. It was quite long. If I remember correctly, it was only like 3, right? Yeah. And I think Brandon was with us for the beginning, and then he left, and me and Josh just sat there like chatting for another 2 hours. maybe it was a little longer than 3. I do remember ending with Josh, and we're like, I don't know what we're going to say about some of these people who are picked in the draft, because we didn't necessarily know everybody, but we made it through. But we are here now, and this is going to be going out every week now from here. And again, you can catch it in the same places you've been listening to it. But we are kicking off a series where we're going to look at each of the divisions, and we're going to talk about, now that the draft is over, now that free agency has had a lot of time to run its course. It's never really over, right? And even once the game starts, free agent stuff can happen. But what do they look like now, and where do we kind of rank them as we look at each division going through? We're going to do that, but first we're going to kind of hit some of this breaking news that we have with stuff going on in the NFL. Not a whole lot, but a few things. And so when I look at this, Cardinals, obviously one of the big things is the Cardinals released DeAndre Hopkins. So there was going to be this trade, right? They were talking about like, hey, it's possible he's on a trade block, and you would think they could get a trade partner to get at least something out of DeAndre Hopkins. But no, what they did, I think, was told us all pretty plainly, yeah, we're going to tank this season. We're going to take all of his dead cap on this season. Kyler Murray's not going to be here. He's not going to be here. We don't know what this team's going to look like. We're just going to get all of our lumps out of the way. And then next year, we're going to start fresh with Kyler Murray healthy and who knows what else, right? Is that what it looks like to you guys?
I'm just going to throw in here. I did talk to the board at Green Bay and told them to send the 3rd round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, which would have been something compared to just slashing him. And
they didn't listen.
The deal fell through, and I guess our communication never got there. It might still be in the mail. We haven't quite got up to the email yet.
Well, I don't have that inside connection with the Colts, but when people start throwing around this idea of where's DeAndre Hopkins going to go, when it first happened, I saw somebody do an article like needy teams who could use him, and I think Indy was on that list with like 7 others. But when we start talking about like where he wants to go and where people thinks he will go, Indy's never on that list. It's always the Bills, the Chiefs. Who else?
I think that's
Green
what it's
Bay.
down to right now. Is
what's that?
Chiefs.
Bills and Chiefs, but I've heard Jets. Will he be with Browns? I've heard Browns a lot because Deshaun Watson actually was kind of talking to him, campaigning for him to be a Brown. They used to play together in Houston, and now
the Jets did come out and say that they're not going to get DeAndre.
They're not going to get him.
They do not have it.
And the truth is, do they even have space in that wide receiver room? Once they have like their young wide receivers, and then they brought in Aaron Rodgers, like safety blanket receivers, they don't have any more space for another receiver to catch anything, I don't
They're
think.
young receiver. They're one receiver they retained.
Right. They
Garrett
got rid of Elijah. What's his name? They kept the one. Anyway, yeah, so they said they're out. The Colts, just knowing Chris Ballard, we don't spend big, and it sounds like DeAndre Hopkins wants big, and so my guess is we're not in that conversation. So where do you think he'll end up? You think it'll be the Bills?
I think Buffalo.
You think so?
I think Buffalo. I actually ran a poll on our Twitter about 5 days ago, and 33 people voted, and 42% got voted for the Bills, 18% voted for the Chiefs, and then 9% voted for the Panthers. And then I put other as a 30% voted for other, and then some guy commented Jets, which is not going to happen anymore because it said that wasn't going to happen. But the Bills seem to be the leading, I guess, team in this race according to our Twitter.
Okay. Well, our Twitter, they definitely know some stuff, right? Hey, so just one thing I'm going to make you guys aware of right here at the beginning. I forgot to hit record on this thing that I usually record on. So we're going like full test today because you can like separate the audio, download the audio from what we're doing right now in StreamYard. And we're going to try that. So that's something that if for some reason you audio podcast listeners hear this and it doesn't sound as good, we'll learn from that. But it might sound great. It might take out a step too. So what else is going on? Garoppolo. So remember when the Raiders were like, everybody's like, they've got to get a quarterback. And they're like, oh, they got Garoppolo. So now they're not going to draft a quarterback. And that was the big talk. Are the Raiders going to trade up and get one of these top 4 quarterbacks? Are they going to trade up to number 3 and get whoever the Colts want? I remember that being a big scare. And it's like, oh, they signed Garoppolo. Great. That's awesome for the Colts because now we don't have to worry. And they probably thought they didn't have to worry. But now news comes out that Garoppolo did not pass his physical. His foot still is not right. And they did a surgery and redid the contract so that it's possible if he doesn't pass the physical before the season starts, they could pay him nothing. But they would also be sitting with absolutely who's their backup?
No idea.
Let's find out.
Oh, it's
Find out.
that guy the Broncos guy. Not Jarrett Stidham. It might be Jarrett Stidham. They signed him this offseason.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the 49ers who have Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. I'm like, oh, wait. I was thinking them. I'm like, no, that's 49ers. This is the Raiders. Who do they even have behind Garoppolo? We're about to find out because Brandon is on the case. I can see him there looking, going. And we do know this. We do know, what's that?
Jared Stidham.
That's
Okay,
it.
so it is Stidham. All right. Good job, Josh. There's also been the speculation that Brady, who was trying to become a minority owner, was also going to play quarterback. And of course, there's all this kerfuffle about like, well, that's not going to fly because how are you an owner and a quarterback? And what do? Pay yourself really low as a quarterback, but make a lot of money as the owner. And that doesn't seem right. And I think there'd be pushback if he tried to do both of those things. I just can't see an owner also as a player being allowed for some reason in the NFL. I could be wrong, but it just doesn't seem plausible.
They do exist. I mean, it's self-employment, quite literally. But AJ Dillon is one of my co-owners of the Green Bay Packers, and he's a running back for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, but see, Green Bay is a different beast than any other NFL franchise.
Well, there's also the
to
thing
say
of
I'm an owner
versus minority ownership. So is Brady a minority owner?
He was going to be minority, but someone with his profile is different than, say, Abigail Colmark and her voice in the decisions that are made. Not to say, now notice I didn't say Brandon, because Brandon's obviously got the voice. He's high up there.
He's already talked to the Cardinals about DeAndre Hopkins. Yep.
But I think just someone with his profile, with his, he would have a lot more pull, and he would have like, I just think there could be more of a problem than AJ Dillon owning, a couple shares of the however many hundreds of thousands.
One share.
What's that? He has
Yeah,
one share.
one share.
One share of, and how many are there? How many shares are there?
A lot.
A lot. So he is like so diluted not diluted, diluted in his ownership say. So he's got to get past, Gudikins and Brandon Colmark before he ever gets a say in anything.
Right.
So,
Speaking
what
of
did you think about?
Gudikins-
By the way, what did you think
Yeah.
about the report that came out where Aaron Rodgers came and said, "Hey, I want Gudikins fired like in 2021."
Well, all right. Let's break this down a little bit.
All right.
We knew that in 2021. This is not new information. It's stuff we've already covered that's just being recycled. And I don't know why everyone goes crazy for it now when it happened 2 years ago and we knew about it 2 years ago.
Well, I think it goes along with the narrative that Aaron Rodgers is a very self-centered and entitled type of player. And when he was part of the Green Bay Packers, and that was news, most of my Green Bay Packer friends, and I can't remember you, Brandon, so I'm not putting this in your mouth, but most of my Green Bay friends were like, "Oh no, they're working it out. They're going to work it out, and everything's going to be fine. It's not really a big deal. He doesn't really want that." And, I think now those same Green Bay fans are like, "Man, Aaron Rodgers wanted that, and he is so entitled. Well, the Jets can have him. We got Jordan Love." I'm hearing more of that. I'm hearing less of this like Aaron Rodgers is the greatest thing since cheese. Oh, cheese. Get it? Cheesehead.
That's a tough.
Greatest thing since cheese heads. And he, so they used to be like that. I think we're hearing less of that now, even from Green Bay fans. And it's not that they don't appreciate what he did, but I think they've come to the point where they can recognize with the rest of the world, he is a little more high maintenance than, say, most of the other quarterbacks in the league. Not all, maybe.
I'm going to go on a little stretch, excluding Bears fans here. I think Packers fans are probably the most optimistic fans about anything in the league.
Well, it is hard not to be optimistic when you've had 30 years or however many years of
Hall of Fame play.
Hall of Fame quarterback play, right? Yeah. So you guys have been spoiled. So to say you're optimistic, that's like saying, well, the rich guy who lives in the big house is pretty happy with his living situation. It's like, that's not too hard.
So.
Wait until you're living in the trailer and it's on fire, which you might be soon, or you might not be, depending on if Jordan Love turns into the next Aaron Rodgers. But when you're there, will you still be that really optimistic fan base?
Now, I'm just going to break this down in a short thing. I could take over the rest of this stream, but I'm not going to, because that's not the point. We need to get to the AFC North.
Right.
We're going to be in the NFC North just for a little bit. Give me a couple minutes. We knew this issue with Rodgers was happening in 21. We went through the whole thing. Aaron's not going to show up to anything. Aaron wants this, blah, 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 blah. All right. I mean, it's fine. It happens. We also know that during that time, there was positive movement between Aaron and Brian Gutekunst in terms of a personal, professional relationship between the two of them. And Aaron went out of his way, the guy that everyone labels as a diva, out of his way on the Pat McAfee show to highlight the good things happening between the two of them, because he didn't want to be a diva for it. And so Aaron's a smart enough guy to loop around and loop around and loop around and professionally avoid answering the question.
Or he didn't want to appear to be a diva. Mm-hmm. I think there's a little bit of that in Aaron Rodgers too. He'll like play the humble to appear humble, but I don't think most people are fooled by the humble play.
And so right now what we have with Aaron, which is fine. He's going into the New York side of things, which is the New Yorkers are very different from the Wisconsinite people, but he's able to kind of play this nice honeymoon period. I didn't have this, and I didn't have this, and I wanted this, and there were these issues. Yeah, there were issues, but there were also successes and resolutions, and they're just not talking about those right now. So it's not crazy new information that just got leaked. It's stuff we've known for 2 years that now the New York media has a hold of it, and they're able to highlight it of, we're able to provide Aaron with all of this, which is a very New York media way of doing things. And so it's just a media battle gamble game. and nothing more than that. It's not new, not crazy, not earth-shattering information. It's stuff we've already accepted, we've already moved on, and our optimistic selves are ready for 15 more years of Hall of Fame quarterback play to make it 45 instead of 30 years.
And this is where the rest of the league is watching to see if that will happen. And two outcomes. It does, and everybody hates you because nobody should be that lucky, or it doesn't, and everybody kind of quietly sits, well, maybe some of them won't be so quietly, says they finally feel our pain. We'll see which one happens to be. I did hear somebody say they thought Green Bay was going to be, this was, okay, disclaimer, this was a Chicago football tonight.
Okay,
they're talking about how
everything that comes out of
Chicago. Right. So they're talking about like how they think the division's going to come out, which I don't think is correct. Of course, they had the Bears coming out on top.
Oh yeah.
Then they had the Lions. Then they had Green Bay, and then they had Minnesota. Which that all sounds wrong to me. But
it is.
The one guy's like, "Why don't you have Green Bay on the bottom?" He's like, "No. See, here's the problem. We either want Jordan Love. We just want Jordan Love to be good. We don't want him to be bad." Because if he's really bad and they end up really low, then they're going to get Caleb. What's his name?
Williams.
Caleb Williams, and let Jordan Love go after this 1 year, and then we're all going to be in for it. And I'm like, well, if Jordan Love was bad, that would somehow be the way that he was bad and how it turned out for everybody.
So it was more of an optimism, foreshadowing, hoping it happens thing from a Bears fan rather than a realistic standpoint.
Well, the Bears wanted him to be like Midland. They don't want him getting that high draft pick, but they don't want him to be good. But that's a Bears fan. What do you expect?
This goes exactly right back to what I said. Outside of Chicago, Packers fans are the most optimistic in the league. Every Chicago Bears fan lives in the year 1986. They just won the Super Bowl, and they're going to get everything great the next season.
Well, I have some relatives who are Bears fans, and that's not the way they feel. As a matter of fact, they're not living in 86. They're living in a perpetual, I hate the McCaskies and what the Bears are doing.
I believe
right there. Those are the Bears fans.
They're negative.
Be friends with because they have logic. They haven't,
right.
Yeah, I believe there's two sides of either I hate McCaskies, everything is all right, and then there's we're gonna win the Super Bowl. And I have one of those friends at work. I mean, he's not like football knowledge, but he watches the game. He understands the general aspect of the game, and he likes the Bears. And he's like, dude, we just got DJ Moore. We got to draft all these linemen and the D linemen, and Justin Fields is going to excel, and we're going to win the division. We're going to go in the playoffs. And I'm like, I think you're going to get 7 to 8 wins. And he's like, yeah, maybe you're right.
All right. Hey, you know what? We're getting into the NFC North. We're going to pull out of that because we are saving that one. That's going to be a division that's coming. Before we do get to the AFC North today, though, I do want to throw up something that just came to mind, and that is Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee stepped out of a $120 million deal with FanDuel to go into an $85 million. Okay, so it was a $120 million 4-year deal with FanDuel, and he went to a 5-year $85 million, I think it was, deal with ESPN. Where he gets to continue doing his show, but it also will stream on the ESPN YouTube part, and it'll be on ESPN's whatever cable provider or whatever people look at these days. What do you guys think about this deal? What's going on, and why did it happen?
I know there were issues between FanDuel and McAfee.
What were those issues?
I don't know. I think it's operational issues. Pat was like, I'm really proud of what me and my boys have built. And I don't want to disrupt that, but we want to bring you on as our title sponsor.
I think it's
the way I understood it. And FanDuel was coming in and saying, all right, now that we're doing this is all going to change. And he's like, whoa. That's not the purpose of this show.
Right. So I do know he's pretty vocal about we're not going to change when we go to ESPN. And I wondered if FanDuel was trying to change.
And so here's the thing I love about ESPN. And this is well documented. I think it was last summer, maybe last season before the off season started. ESPN had banned their employees from showing up on the Pat McAfee show. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
And ESPN has viewed them as competition for so long. And so
that really backfired. I mean,
it did. And
backfired huge on them.
It did. And now they're not competition. They're working in a partnership. So now data shared between Pat McAfee and his boys goes to ESPN. ESPN data shared between them and Pat McAfee. And I think it's a really good partnership that's going to work. And I don't think they're going to try to hover over and change everything. It's just going to be a few different plugins on where you need to go. Maybe you cover a few different things that ESPN wants you to cover. Maybe a more targeted story, but still within the realm of being Pat McAfee and the boys.
I think it's that,
Yeah.
but I also think some of it has to do with I saw this somewhere, and I don't know if it was fake or real, but he just had a baby girl, so I feel like some of it has to do with like a control aspect, if you know what I mean, of FanDuel versus ESPN, and like what their policies, I guess, are, and how much he works or whatever. He wants to be with his kid. He just had one, so it's like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's weird to think that he would have more control at ESPN, a Disney-owned company, than he would with FanDuel, a betting company.
Yeah,
it just seems like, thought-wise, those would be different. But it looks like he did really put an emphasis on we're going to have full creative control, and so maybe that was the big thing. Maybe FanDuel was trying to dictate the way some things went, or who was on the show, or what it was. Who knows. And ESPN found a chance. They're like, hey, we can swoop in here and say, hey, you can do whatever you want. You just can't say the F word as much on our screens that go out to the public, which I know YouTube goes out to the public, but like a television can be on in the background and kids and stuff. So anyway, yeah, that was interesting. And I just thought I'd bring that up before we jump into this. But hey, I think it's time for us to go ahead and begin to talk about the division breakdowns that we have going on in the weeks leading up to the 2023 NFL season. We're going to start with the AFC North. We're going to go through the AFC. So we got the North, East, South, and West, and then we're going to go to the NFC and do the same thing, North, East, South, West. We're just going compass coordinate order here. And so let me still learning all of this software here. We're going to go ahead and I think it's this one. Nope, it's not that one. There we go. We're going to bring up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we'll just do them in that order. And what I think we'll do is we'll talk about each team just a little bit about who did they add draft-wise and free agency-wise. So like personnel, how are they looking for this coming year? And then we'll just kind of scan their schedule and say, what do we think here? How many wins, how many losses? And we don't have to necessarily go through each game, but we may. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to kind of lay down that as our format. And I'll try to keep us from going too long on any of these, although it can get easy when we really get excited about things. So we're going to go ahead and first, before we click on the schedule for the Baltimore Ravens, what kind of off-season draft did you guys perceive them having? So we've got Lamar. Lamar is back. Okay, so the big question going into this was, where's Lamar going to be? Is he even going to be with him? There was a lot of very real moments where I thought Lamar might sign with somebody else, or at least try to, and then they might match him or whatever. Ended up, that all worked out. He got paid. Maybe not exactly Deshaun Watson money, but he got paid. And that banner jumping up there, I don't want that. And so he's back. Not only that, they went out and signed Odell Beckham. This might have been part of why they were trying to bring him back. And we don't exactly know where Odell Beckham is. He's getting a little older. He's been injured a few times, but he's always been a good receiver. Not only that, I think, you look at who'd they get? They got Zay Flowers.
Yep.
J.K. Dobbins, right?
Yep. Gus Edwards still.
They also signed Nelson Aguilar.
Aguilar,
right.
Yep. And you pair that with Bateman, Rashad Bateman, and Devin Duvernay. You have a solid core.
So what we see here, I think, with the Ravens is like the anti-Ravens, right? Mm-hmm. In the past, we've always had like Lamar, not that great of wide receivers, a really good defense, and just a lot of run, Lamar running and maybe finding some people to throw to. This year, it's going to be weird because there's like so many weapons out there, possibly if they all pan out, for him to throw to, but their defense is looking a little thinner than usual. And so it's going to be an odd season to watch Baltimore and know this is exactly how they're going to go. But so their top draft pick was who? Their very first one was
Zay Flowers.
Was it Zay? Okay.
Yeah. I actually, you said their defense kind of. I actually like their defense a lot more than they did last year. I mean, you have Roquan Smith for a full season now. You still have Patrick Queen. You got a couple good to average outside linebackers and Tyus Bowser and Odafe Owe. But then when you get to the secondary, they still have Kyle Hamilton, who they drafted last year. You got Marlon.
Owe took a step back last year, in my opinion. He didn't quite look as good as he had.
Maybe I'm thinking of someone else, and maybe David Ajabo, maybe.
Right.
But you still got Marlon Humphrey. You still got Marcus Williams. You just signed Rocky Sin from the Raiders last season or this past
really
offseason.
wanted the Colts to bring him back, but yeah, that was
you have a solid secondary. But I mean, the weakness I guess on the defense I can see is their defensive line. I mean, it's just unless you put edge rushers as linebackers as edge rushers, then I don't really see a strength on the defensive line on this team.
And that's what I would agree with. I think defensive line is weak. I think their back is strong. Safeties and corners look good. I think it's when you get up into some of those linebackers and definitely the line that looks a little thin to me, or looks like they need to prove it, maybe.
Yeah.
So as we look at their schedule, let's go ahead and let's go here. And let's just kind of look at where they're going to be playing this year and what we think the outcomes of some of those games. So this preseason, we're not going to sit and like pick on, but because nobody plays their starters anyway. But it's going to be fun to watch them against Philadelphia Eagles, and then we get
the
our
Ravens do play their starters. Don't forget
they always do. Yeah, because they got that streak going on. For
They've
like
got
5
the
years.
streak.
J.K. Dobbins got injured because he was starting in preseason and was out for the season.
So let me amend that statement. They will start their starters, but none of these other teams that they're playing against will. So we still don't really know what this means when they look well. If they look bad, against the non-starting other teams, maybe.
They're,
So
they're going 3-0 in the preseason. It's
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So we got the Eagles, and we got the Commanders, and we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And remember, we no longer have 4 preseason games because we went to a 17 regular game season and we took away a preseason. So those 3, and we get to the regular season, they get to start off what I and probably most of the rest of the country thinks is easy. We still look at the Houston Texans and say, until you start to prove me wrong, you just look like an easy game. I know you got C.J. Stroud. I don't know who else they got. I have not really looked.
Yeah.
They got what's his name? Anderson.
Will Anderson.
Yeah, they got those 2 back.
I mean, they still got Damian Pierce, but like you said, I mean, they have some pieces somewhere. Like some good pieces, but they don't have a well-constructed, complete team yet. And it's one of those prove it to me until then I'm not optimistic about it.
Yeah. I'm going to grab a piece of paper here and just kind of keep track of my little win-loss record we think we're going to make for these guys, okay? There's the paper. Got my pen out. Hopefully this pen has ink in it. All right, so we got Houston Texans. Game number 1, we think it's going to be a win, right?
Oh, win. Yes. Loss for the Texans. Loss for the Texans.
Loss for the Texans. Win for the Ravens. All right. Cincinnati Bengals, though, is a whole different story. And we're going to talk about the Bengals here in a moment. Without getting into all of their roster, what do you think is going to happen with the Bengals?
Bengals are going to win.
Bengals are going to win. Yeah,
I also agree. So that's a loss for our lovely birds there. We'll come back to talk about why we think that necessarily here in a moment. Indianapolis Colts Week 3. So we got Lamar, who's been there a while with all these weapons, even with like a bit of a suspect defense, against the Colts, who had a pretty good defense, but they're starting with a brand new quarterback. He does have some weapons, but those weapons didn't look so great last year. I mean, some were just added. I know what I think is going to happen. Should I go first?
Too. You go first. Yeah, your team.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win against us the first time.
I
think even if Anthony Richardson's playing, he's still getting his feet under him, and Lamar's been doing this longer. And I think that's a tough one for us.
I think they win also. I mean, they came close. Was it last year or 2 years ago whenever they like completely choked the game away or whatever? But this is a more constructed team, well-constructed team than the Texans, but they still have that whole prove it to me at quarterback like the Texans do. And I just think the Ravens are more built for this, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it pains me, and I would love to see that like surprise me. Like if we get to the season and Anthony Richardson is playing and he's playing better than expected, excitement level is going to go through the roof here as a Colts person, which is not on my little title here on the screen, but I am the Colts homer. Need to find a good title to put on there. But I am trying to like be less optimistic as we head into the season so that I can be more optimistic if we overperform. What's that? Under promise, overperform. That's going to be my mantra. It's hard
Expect
because
the worst
I get really excited and want to begin to overpromise. So I'm going to try and not do that. Okay. So Indianapolis Colts, we think they will win against them. And then we come against the Cleveland Browns. Now we've got Deshaun Watson. We're going to talk about this team again in a minute, so I shouldn't go into this too much. Having those thoughts in the back of our head, we'll come back and explain why when we go through that schedule. What do you think is going to happen here?
I think it's a loss.
I think they beat the Browns, but I think they lose to the Steelers.
So we're split on the Browns so far until I weigh in. Josh says they're going to win or lose, and Brandon says the Ravens are going to win. Right? I think this is where we see the Browns win this one. Who said that?
Let's go, me.
You said that. Okay. I think the Browns win this one and kind of shock.
Yeah.
I think Deshaun Watson being back in, and I've got my reasons, but I do think it's not something that I would say, oh, yeah, the Browns easily. I think, though, this is going to be a surprise for
Yeah. I mean, I'll get more into it when we get to the Browns and two teams after the Bengals, but I just think with Deshaun Watson like playing and practicing, for a full season instead of like missing like 12 games of practice or 12 weeks of practice or whatever, and they have that complete offense with Cooper and Peoples-Jones and Njoku and Chubb, and they have a great defense. They just signed Zadarius Smith. They have all these guys that are still there. I just think that they're more ready to beat this team, and they're in Cleveland. They have a team that can do it.
Okay, so since we had two people, I know this isn't Brandon's vote, but we're going to go with the two, and so we're putting that as a loss for the Ravens. But what about this? Brandon says he thinks they will lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think there, Josh? Again,
tough.
This is another division team we're going to be talking about.
I mean, it's at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's always a hard place to play, but I mean, Kenny Pickett, he never, like Mike Tomlin always wins. Like he never finds a way to have a losing season, never finds a way to lose, and they always have it. They always, usually at least 9% of the time, they split 1-1 each season, but you never know which game it is. But I don't know how ready Kenny Pickett is. You know what I mean? They have Najee Harris, they have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith on defense and these other guys. I just don't know how ready Kenny Pickett is. You know what I mean? We've always said with, last year with Jalen Hurts, this is a great team, a dream team, but we need to know how Hurts plays, and he played great. So I think they lose also. I think they win it. I think Pittsburgh wins.
You think Pittsburgh wins? Okay, so I was of the opinion that I think the Ravens will win this one against Pittsburgh, and then later Pittsburgh's going to beat them. But we go with the 2 over the 1, so we're saying that this is a win for the Ravens. Okay, Tennessee Titans.
I think they beat Tennessee.
I do too.
I also do. I was. Were you guys watching any of those videos where the Titans were in practice and they had their 3 quarterbacks doing these drills and throwing, and all 3 of them just were. I mean, especially, I have to bring this up. Especially Will Levis was just looking rough. Man, he was like not even hitting the net.
there was that one, but the one no one wants to talk about is the Buccaneers.
Well, we'll get to the Buccaneers too.
I love how like you say that, but then like 3 days ago, I see like a tweet or a couple tweets, whatever, from PFF, NFL, whatever. It's like the Buccaneers training or quarterback competition is heating up, and I'm like, they completely suck.
Neither of them can hit their receivers.
Exactly.
Well, heating up is one of those process terms. They may have been like really cold. Maybe they're a little warmer, and that is still heating up. It doesn't mean they're hot.
So, yeah, I guess so. They are in Tampa Bay. It is hot down there.
I agree. I think Ravens beat the Titans here. The Titans right now, Titans could be proving me wrong, but like I just see they've lost something. And they, when they lost, what's his name? AJ Brown. That seemed to like really change their team. And Derrick Henry's only getting older. Ryan Tannehill doesn't seem to be in the long-term plans for for them, even if Will Levis doesn't work out. It's like they obviously are saying, we don't know how long Ryan Tannehill's going to be the guy. And I do think without A.J. Brown there, Ryan Tannehill didn't look as good. So I agree. I think Baltimore beats them there. So that's another win for Baltimore.
Here's
and then
a quick prediction before
Yeah.
we move on to me saying the Lions are going to win this game.
Hey,
Ryan Tannehill, depending on the Jimmy G situation, might be in Vegas. I mean, it's all depending on what happens with Jimmy G, but they're going to be desperate for a quarterback, and he's on the market.
I had to run and get coffee, but I really wanted to say when you said that, so I just said it. That could be Ryan Tannehill. Not like if it were my team and they were like, hey, we're not going Jimmy G, so we got this other quarterback, and then they say the name Ryan Tannehill. I don't find myself being like, yes, we're awesome now. But, you know, he has proven that
That's
he
like
can.
I would rather have
go from, you know, Phillip Rivers to Matt Ryan to Carson Wentz.
That's like going from like Aldi to Walmart generic brand. You know what I mean? Aldi, you know, it's cheap. It has good product. That's Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, he wins games. He manages games. He gets you down the field. He wins games. But then you go to Ryan Tannehill and it's like, oh, this is just a knockoff brand. I know it's cheaper, but it's not the same tasting. It's like tasting like the Oreos, you know, versus the generic Oreos. You know, they don't taste the same.
Value Oreos.
Yeah, they don't taste the same.
If I'm Ryan Tannehill and all of a sudden Devontae Adams is my receiver, I'm jumping up and down as Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, yeah. Ryan Tannehill would
billionaire
love
just
it.
bought my generic Oreos.
It's like when he came to Tennessee, the you know, from Miami, everybody's like, oh, he's no good. And then like he surprised everybody. If he was with Devontae Adams, I think he would surprise some people because he seems to do well when you have a really good receiver option, which he doesn't really have right now. He has some okay ones, but yeah, I think we're going to start referring to Ryan Tannehill as the great value brand quarterback.
Yeah.
I might just start calling him great value. We'll see.
Well, then we have to send him to Denver. I mean, that's the problem. That is the great value team.
The problem with
That's right.
Denver can't get out of this Russell Wilson contract that is so expensive and they gave up a bajillion picks for. That's another whole story. We'll get to them. All right. So we've moved, not really, but Brandon has already begun to foreshadow this one. I agree.
I think they win.
Lions
Yeah, I
will
think the
win.
Lions. I think the Lions.
So they
win.
will lose to the
Yes,
Detroit
the
Lions,
Ravens
is what
lose,
we're
yeah.
saying. Yeah. So we got a loss there. What number are we on? 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, make sure I'm not didn't miss one there. And then I think just as easily, I'm going to say they're going to win against the Arizona Cardinals.
No chance. Yeah,
Because we're looking at the Cardinals right now, and even if Kyler Murray's starting to come back, who's on that team?
Marquise Brown, I guess.
That's going to be ugly. I think
Zach Ertz. Is he still
Yeah, he is. I guess
he is. Yeah, that's
Buda
true.
Baker, which he also wants out of there.
I mean,
Buda Baker does one out.
JJ Watt said, "Oh yeah, I'm retiring. Like, peace out."
James Conner, who okay.
Yeah. Cardinals lose.
Yeah,
Seattle wins.
I think they lose.
I like Seattle.
Wait, go back up a little bit. Go back up a little more. They look okay. Sorry. I thought we were still in the Pittsburgh Lions and then whatever. So they just lost 3 in a row. No chance they lose. But then they have the Cardinals. So I just got a little sidetracked. I think they beat Seattle. I think Seattle doesn't have a good enough defense. They have a better offense, but I just don't think they have enough. I mean, Geno Smith, it might be a 1-year wonder. We'll find out. But I just think Seattle loses
here. Man, Geno Smith. When you guys put out, whichever one of you sent out that poll the other day, who has the best right now trio of receivers, and you look at DK Metcalf, Lockett, and then Njigba.
Yeah, if you do not succeed with that, I don't know.
I mean, I think Seattle's going to win that one.
We just talked about it on this podcast, the receivers that they have in Baltimore, and it's a nice group, but it is not the Seattle receiving corps.
It is not
at all.
It is not even close.
I mean, those guys are all young and fast, and well, we don't know too much about the new rookie there. But
yeah, JSN. I mean, he's fast. He's reliable. I mean, he's an Ohio guy, as reliable as you can be for coming from Ohio. But I think I like Seattle in this game. Seattle's going to win.
Okay, well, we have 1 win, 2 losses, so that counts as a loss here for our team.
I thought you said
tally.
you thought you said the Seahawks were winning, Matt.
Right, so Baltimore loses.
Oh, okay.
Because we're tallying for Baltimore.
We're tallying for this. Yeah, okay. So you said it. The Seahawks, the 2 wins, 1 loss. I thought you meant you voted the Ravens to win also. So
yeah,
it should have
I
been
said that backwards.
It should have been 2 losses. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
2 losses.
yeah.
2 losses for Baltimore, and so
I'm
we go
also
with the
looking
loss
at it backwards. I'm going from the perspective of the
of
team,
the
that
team
they
they're
play.
playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
every time I write it down, I flip in my
Yeah.
head. So if I say that wrong, everybody stick with me. At the end, we'll tell you what our records look like.
That's all that matters is at the end. Yep.
Right. So we come to the Cleveland Browns again. So the first time, what did we say they would get?
They
They
won.
would win.
We said
No,
they
the
would
Browns-
win.
Oh no, the Browns would win. Yeah. So we're just
I
good.
said they
No,
would
wait.
beat the Browns.
You said yeah.
We said, well, it's 1, 2, 3. That's week
3,
4.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. We said
would
that that they would lose to the Browns the first time. Okay, just for
I think they win this one. They're at home. They're starting to get on a streak. They just beat the Cardinals. They just beat the Seahawks. I think they start a nice little streak here, and foreshadowing it ends next week. But they beat the Browns.
Yeah, they beat the Browns. They lose to the Bengals.
Okay, so we've got a win in that column. You notice I didn't even weigh in, but I think I slightly agree. But I think it would be hilarious if the Browns beat them twice, swept them in a year. But I'm splitting it also. So that's a win for the Ravens. And then we got the Bengals. Josh, what do you think?
I think the Bengals sweep. I do. I mean, the Bengals, they've improved. We'll talk about it in a minute, but they've improved their key areas. We'll get to the players in a minute, but they've improved key areas where they're just too good. I mean, they've made the AFC Championship 2 times in a year, and the Super Bowl the previous year before this season. There's no way they're not still that top 5 team in the league.
Okay. You agree, Brandon?
Yes.
We'll move right on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert's there.
I think they lose.
I haven't even
The-
looked
the-
at what else
the
changed
Ravens.
with their roster, but you think the Ravens lose to the Chargers in week 12?
Yes, I do.
I'm also getting on board. I'm also not great for asking about Charger stuff because I'm very biased towards Justin Herbert and
I mean,
that team.
we just talked about how the Seahawks have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith, and whatever.
Mike Williams.
We got They got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and what's his name? They just drafted him. Like it's Addison or something like that.
No, Jordan Addison went to Minnesota.
Quentin Johnston. They just drafted Quentin Johnston. They still have Eckler, who he's sticking around. He just got a new deal or a new incentive deal. They still have Herbert. They still have Gerald Everett and Donald Parham. They still have a solid defense, a great pass rush, and an average offensive line. I mean, I know the Chargers are going to be like, oh, they'll choke at the end. They always choke in the playoffs, whatever. But I think they're great in the middle to the close to the end of the postseason, the regular season, and they start collapsing at that point, like probably week 16. But I think they're great right here.
Okay. Bye week comes right after that loss. They have 2 losses in a row, and then they get a bye week to come.
They win against the bye week. I
Nice.
think
They definitely
That's all that
win
matters.
the bye, and then they come.
I think they
back, and
win.
I think they get a win on the LA Rams.
I think
Now,
they win
here's
against the
here's my
Rams.
problem is I'm looking at the LA Rams from last year, and I'm just like, that team is not good. I don't know that I feel like they're going to be much better.
we don't know anything about Matthew Stafford yet.
We don't.
Right.
I mean,
He was out last season. He was the reason they won the Super Bowl.
we don't know anything about Cooper Kupp either because he was out last season for half of it too.
So right now, I'm going to stick with what I feel of the Rams, and that is I
lose.
think they're going to beat the Rams.
Yeah.
And so we're going to put that as a win. You'll notice, those of you on the video podcast, that Brandon has pulled off for a moment. He had a work call coming in that he had to take, and so he'll join us back here in just a moment. Josh and I are going to continue on and say everything that Brandon doesn't want us to say about who's going to win and who's going to lose. But right now, for the Los Angeles Rams in Week 14,
If it comes down to it, we'll flip a coin, and that will be Brandon's vote.
that's right. But we're saying they win.
They win.
Against the Rams. And then we come down to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They
It's
lose.
going to be a fun one.
I think they lose. I think
You
the
think they
Jaguars. I mean, the Jaguars, they've proven time and time and again. I mean, I know they had like a 9-8 record or whatever, but they came back 24 points against the Chargers, which is a solid team, on a nice day. But I just think this is probably the point where Lamar Jackson gets quote unquote injured and he's out, and they've missed the playoffs. But honestly, I don't think it happens this year. I just think the Jaguars are too well equipped to lose this game. You know what I mean?
Okay, this is a tough one for me. I agree. I think Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars are getting
They
better.
get Calvin Ridley back.
They're better.
They got
coached
Evan
than
Ingram.
They were.
Travis Etienne. Yep.
But I know the Ravens are tough for them. I'm going to stick with you on this. I'm going to say that they lose to Jacksonville, which is going to be tough because next they come up against San Francisco 49ers, another one that I don't really know what their quarterback situation is going to be at this time. But what do you think is going to happen, Josh?
I don't know. I mean, does Trey Lance start like right off the season, or does he get benched and then he comes, or does he not play and then he comes in? Or we don't know.
Is Purdy playing all season? Purdy started throwing again yesterday.
But whatever quarterback they have in, they always seem to win. I mean, we always thought, last season, I thought, when we were like hunting for that wild card, and I was like, oh, the Seahawks can take the division, and then the 49ers can get eliminated. The Commanders can take that last spot. They proved me wrong. They got the number 1 or 2 seed. Purdy completely electrified the league. I think they lose here.
Yeah,
the 49ers win.
They also had CMC. Who are their receivers?
Debo, Ayuk,
Debo Samuels,
George Kittle,
Ayuk, Kittle,
and then they have that defense: Bosa, Fred Warner.
That's the big thing. That defense is like so good.
Top 4.
I'm going to go with 49ers winning also. So that's a loss for our Baltimore Ravens. And then in week 17, the Dolphins, and they'll end up with Pittsburgh. Talk to me about these two.
It's just another scenario where with the 49ers, like, we know what we're going to get with Tua, but are we going to get him injured? Is he going to, you know what I mean? Is he going to get injured again or not? And I mean, they beat him last year, or the Dolphins beat them last year, but it was a comeback and it was like a 41-35 game or whatever. I think at this point, if we're predicted right, just in a weird scenario where we get every game right so far, they're going to be playing for a wild card spot at this point, and they're going to have to push harder. And I think they beat the Dolphins.
You think they do?
I do. I don't think they go 3. I do not think they go 3 losses in a row or 2 losses in a row.
Part of me has been looking at what's going on down in Miami, and if Tua's healthy, this is the point. It's hard to say because Tua is also this. This is the point where Lamar's hurt every year, right?
Exactly.
Heading into the end, I could see Miami winning this one, and I could see Pittsburgh winning the next week, which would give them 4 losses to end out their season.
I don't think it's happening. I don't think I don't think Harbaugh's satisfied with that. You know what I mean? I think they go in and they win this one. Are we flipping the coin?
I think we're going to have to flip the coin. Do you have a coin?
Yep, I'll share my screen real quick.
Here, I'll pull this down. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Here goes our coin flip. This is for Brandon's choice.
Oh, wait.
We didn't decide what's
I was going to say. Yeah. So this doesn't count. It's flipping right now. What do you, Brandon what do you want? You could pick for Brandon because.
Let's go heads. Miami wins. Tails. Ravens win.
All right. Miami wins.
Wait, did it stop once and then go again?
No.
It's just okay. So tails. This is
Baltimore heads.
Wins?
Baltimore loses and heads.
So we're calling this a loss. Okay. So we're calling that a loss. All right. And then Pittsburgh Steelers at the end. Pittsburgh Steelers. Did we have them beating Pittsburgh earlier?
No, we had them losing in Pittsburgh. I think they win this one.
You think they beat Pittsburgh?
I think they like we were saying earlier, or I was saying earlier. I mean, even if Lamar is not injured, I think they're still playing for a wild card spot, and I think this is like that. This is a TBD game, so it's like this is a game that's going to be put on Sunday night. Last game of the season, winner goes to the playoffs type of deal, or Baltimore loses, they're out. Baltimore wins, they're in, and I think that they win this game and they get in the playoffs at like 7, 8, 9, or 9 and 8 in the 7th seed.
Here's the thing. We have them beating the Steelers earlier. We have them winning against the Steelers. I think the Steelers beat them at the end. I think because of Lamar's injury, and I think because I just think that's going to be a split somehow. And I know that this is like kind of scary because if that is true, if we go with a loss there, which I'm not saying we will, but if we do, that means th've got what, a 7-win season?
I don't think that
Baltimore? I mean,
happens. That's why I think they win. I mean, they have to get close to an 8 or 9 seed. So let's just go with this for now. Heads is the home team winning. Tail for now on. Heads is home team. Tails is away team.
Okay, so who's the home team during this Pittsburgh game?
It would be home team would be Baltimore.
Okay, so heads is Baltimore. Man, Brandon, we need that third vote in here, don't we?
Baltimore wins.
Okay, so we're saying a win to end the season. All right, that'll keep them from having 4 at the end, but that does only give them an 8-9 season, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that might be good enough, but they had the same thing last year, didn't they?
I can't remember.
I don't know. I know they missed the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so we have looked at the Ravens. Let's go back here.
They were 10-7 last year.
They went 10-7.
Yeah.
Even with Lamar hurt, huh?
Yeah.
We may be a little off on this. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
We'll see. All right, let's move on to the Bengals because we're going to run out of time here with all 4 of these. So we'll go a little quicker here. Bengals, what kind of roster changes and draft changes would you say you've seen with the Bengals?
Major changes. They signed Orlando Brown to protect Burrow's left side, which they've been needing that. That's been a problem for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've had another couple. They lost a couple safeties. They lost Von Bell to Carolina and Jesse Bates to Atlanta. So that's a very heavy loss. Those were 2 in the top 20 safeties in the league, top 10 tandem, I'd say. Who else did they sign?
Well, they kept like a lot of their young talent, and that's all going to change soon because Mixon and Burrow both are due for new contracts here coming up. But you still got Chase. You still got
Higgins, Boyd.
Higgins.
Oh, they signed Irv Smith to replace Hayden Hurst, which is probably a lateral move, I guess. They're both equally good.
So we got continuity on offense. Looks like we got continuity on defense. They did a little bit of upgrade of their offensive line, maybe, right? With Orlando Brown.
Yep.
So, okay, looking at all that, let's go ahead and take a look at their schedule and see what we've got going on here.
Another problem is we're going to have to remember what we said for the Ravens.
I've got the Ravens. I've got the Ravens down here. Got them written down. So,
right.
Okay, so we've got preseason doesn't really matter, but just to tell you, they'll be playing the Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love to start off. They'll be then going to the Atlanta Falcons and then to the Washington Commanders. So we'll move on to regular season. First week, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's going to be closer than it might have been in the past because I think Deshaun Watson having an extra year will give them more trouble.
I think they win.
I think the Bengals are still going to win to start off, though. Yep.
We said they win week 2 also because we swept. I remember they swept.
So we had Baltimore losing, so we're going to go ahead without a lot of discussion and say that they've won week 2 against the Ravens. And then we go right to the Los Angeles Rams. I think that's going to be a win.
Another win. I think they win the next 3 weeks.
Titans and Cardinals, I would agree. I'm just going to, without a lot of discussion, as we've kind of already talked about those, that takes us through week 5. Looking at week 6, we've got the Seattle Seahawks.
I think they win. And then, I think they win, and then they lose the next 2. Or, oh, that's tough. I think they win against Seattle.
I think they win against Seattle. Agreed. Right now, we've got them like winning out straight through.
I know.
Bye week in week 7. San Francisco, and then the
at
Bills.
San Fran. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it. I think they lose both.
You think they lose to the 49ers?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know they improved with Orlando Brown on offensive line, but that defensive line is still amazing. Their offensive line and the Bengals is still just average. And, you saw what happened in the Super Bowl against Aaron Donald, that if they had just a second more protection, they would have won the game because Jamar Chase is wide open down the sideline, but they didn't. And I still think that's somewhat of a lingering problem, but I know they upgraded a little bit, with Orlando Brown, but they didn't upgrade everything. And I still think that's a problem with, and again, going against the number one defensive line in the league, probably, I think you're going to have problems.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's go on to week 11 then. I'm sorry, not week 11.
You agree with both of those?
I agree. I think they're going to lose maybe to San Francisco, and they're going to lose to the Buffalo Bills. I think they're going to win against the Houston Texans again.
And then they have a week 11 win, because we already did that.
I was going to say, week 11, we already have the win. Week 12, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Go down a little bit, because I know it's weird, but they go. I just, for some reason, their next schedule for some reason also plays a factor into me for some reason. I think they win.
You think they beat them here?
Yeah, I think it's a coin toss, but I think it's probably a last minute game winning field goal. I'd also think they win against Jacksonville.
Okay. I'm not going to argue any of those. I'm going to let those ride.
Sorry, but I think they win against the Colts. I mean, I just don't think they're ready.
Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time predicting Colts this year at all.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say the Bengals win there.
Vikings, I think it's a win. At Steelers, I think it's a loss. And then at Chiefs, I think it's a loss. And then I think the Browns.
So we had them winning against the Browns in week 1.
Yeah.
I think at this point in the
this
season,
one's a tough one, because they could, if they probably have like 4 or 5 wins. Yeah, if they have 4 or 5 wins right now, or 4 or 5 losses, sorry, they can just be resting their starters.
Well, they have 4, but again, it depends on other records. Will they still be in contention for the number 1 seed?
Exactly. So could they rest their starters or could they not? And let's go within a scenario where they're not resting their starter. Nobody's resting their starters. No teams are, and they're all playing for a number 1 seed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I say they win.
I say they win. I think they end 13 and I think they end 13-4, and that's a very realistic.
Okay, we went through that one real fast. So
I mean,
that was good. Let's go back to. I'm going to find my mouse here. We are now going to move to those Browns that we just said would lose. So let's go look at theirs and see what this. So let's go back to. Why is it just starting with regular season and not preseason? Interesting. All right. Well, I guess we won't see who their preseason schedule is against. Maybe they've had their preseason taken away for some reason.
I'll look it up real quick.
Okay. While you're looking that up, we know that week 1 they're going to be against the Bengals, and we've already said. Here, I'm going to start writing this down. 1, we already said that's going to be a loss for them, right? Bengals are going to win that.
Preseason. They play. Okay, so they play in the Hall of Fame game. So they have four preseason games technically. Jets and Browns is the Hall of Fame game, and then they play the Commanders at home, then the Eagles away, and then the Chiefs away.
Okay. And again, I don't think any of that really makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
All right. So week 1 we said was going to be a loss already. The first time they go to Pittsburgh. This is the Browns going to Pittsburgh in week 2.
I think they lose.
Yep, I think Pittsburgh does that one.
Tennessee, whether they win. I think
You think
I think this is the point where Deshaun Watson's finally starting to get his groove after a couple months of practice and a full season. They still have Nick Chubb. They just got Elijah Moore. They signed a couple of key free agents. They still have Njoku.
Yeah, we didn't talk about their roster, did we?
No, we didn't. So, I mean, they still have Deshaun Watson, who I think, finally finds his groove back. Nick Chubb is still there. Amari Cooper.
Darius Smith is in. And
Amari Cooper is still there. Jakeem Grant, Donovan Peoples-Jones is still there. They just got Elijah Moore. They still have Njoku. They still have a pretty good offensive line. Like you said, they just got Zadarius Smith to go on the other side of Myles Garrett. They still have Dalvin Tomlinson and Maurice Hurst in the middle. I think they have a well-rounded linebacker core with Anthony Walker Jr. and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
it's easy for you to say.
It's not. And then, they improved their secondary. They still have Denzel Ward. They just got Juan Thornhill. Their secondary it has some holes, but it's not the big. They're not the biggest holes. I think they have a well-rounded roster.
Yeah. So a lot's going to depend on how well Deshaun Watson plays. And if they end up getting Hopkins in there, that only helps them.
Oh, yeah.
So I can see them, obviously, by week 3, I can see them beating the Titans. So I'm going to give that a W for them.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I might see them beating the Steelers in week 2, but
It's a coin toss. I just think the Steelers, they're at home. I think they can do it, honestly.
yeah. Baltimore Ravens, we already said. We said that's going to be a loss for the Ravens, so a win for the Browns, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're coming on. Then they have their bye week. And then they go to San Francisco. Again, we're looking big at that defense in San Francisco. How do you feel that stacks up against the Browns offense?
I think the 49ers, I think they win. I think the 49ers win.
So we're counting that as a loss for the Browns. I'd probably agree with that. Indianapolis Colts.
Indianapolis Colts.
I'm
actually
wild card. Every
I know
time.
it is. Every time, because I feel like week 7, the Colts will finally figure something out with Richardson, or they'll get their chemistry going. But man, it's tough. I think the Colts lose. I think that the Browns have just a better defense to figure out a rookie's. They're you know what I mean. I think the Browns have a better defense to handle this type of situation, and they have a great offense also. They go with it.
I'm torn on this one. I'm torn because if Anthony Richardson is the guy and he's really beginning to get it, and there's that running component, but he is against Myles Garrett and company there.
Smith, yep. And the offensive line is still not the greatest. You know what I mean? I think that puts a big factor in going against a defensive line like this.
Whew. I'm going to have a hard time when we come to the Colts after we've said all these teams are beating the Colts, going down, going loss.
Yeah. Yeah, Commanders are the same thing. Once we get to the majority of the NFC teams or whatever, it's yeah, okay.
I'm just really torn on this one, but I think Brandon would say that the Colts are probably going to lose this one. So I'm going to go ahead with the loss there. But I'm doing it under with an asterisk beside it. Okay.
Okay. Do you know if he's coming back?
What's that?
You know if Brandon's coming back?
I think he will when his call ends. If not, we'll finish this out. But okay, we just did Colts. Week 8, Seattle Seahawks.
At Seattle. I think that's a Seattle win. I think Seattle wins.
Okay, so wait a minute. Who was 6 up? Okay, so loss, win, loss for these last 3, right? Loss for San Francisco, win against Colts, loss for against Seattle. I think they'll have a win against Arizona.
Win. And then whatever we put for the Ravens.
For the Ravens, what is this, week 10?
Yes.
We had the Ravens winning this. This will be a loss.
So it's loss, win, loss, win, loss.
And then for the Steelers, we haven't gone through the Steelers yet. What do we have there? This is the second one. We had them.
I think they Wow.
This
I think
is
they
the
win.
one at home. You think
think
they
they
win
win.
this one?
I think they win. And I think they win the next 3 or 2 after that. So week 12 and 13.
You think they win against the Broncos? Until I see something from the Broncos, I
Exactly.
would agree with that. And the same with the Rams. We already said that. Don't know that the Rams are going to be as competitive. Jacksonville, the second time.
I think they lose.
Second time? Or is it the
No,
first time?
it's only the first time. I think they lose against Jacksonville.
I concede. Chicago Bears.
It's a win.
I think they beat the Bears. Okay,
Yes,
I agree. Win against the Bears.
Win
Houston
against-
Texans.
Win against the Texans, and then
Jets.
yeah, I know.
J-E-T-S.
I think that's the
Jets,
toughest
Jets,
one so
Jets.
far, is because like we know Rodgers, but we don't know how it'll work with that team. I think they lose. I think the Jets win because like the Jets were able to go 8-9 with Zach Wilson under center, and they already had all these pieces, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, and Rodgers only makes that team so much better. I don't think they lose. I don't think the Jets lose that game.
Okay, so what we have, because we've already said the Bengals are going to win
Bengals.
that last game, we have the Browns going 9-8 and the Ravens going 8-9.
I can see that. Not the Ravens. I think there should be some changes. Maybe 9-8, 10-7, but I can see the Browns going 9-8.
Okay, Steelers. Now here's the problem: 9-8. Whew.
Maybe
I
not.
almost feel like they have to get a 10-win season to make
Exactly. Yeah.
make the Deshaun Watson thing worth it.
Yep.
So we'll
Or at least
see.
a playoff berth and go to like the divisional or the championship or something like that.
All right, well, let's move on to our last. Our last one is going to be the Steelers,
Steelers.
right?
Yeah.
And so let's go to their schedule. Get that up here.
Roster wise, they still have Kenny
Preseason,
Pickett.
First of all, they're doing Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Atlanta. All right, roster.
They still have Kenny Pickett, which he's proven something, but he's not fully proven, if that makes sense. Like he still has more to prove, but he's in the league. You know what I mean?
He started. He had his first year last year, and he wasn't horrible. And he
Yeah.
looked like he was at the
He
end
looked
of
like
the
it.
year,
He looked like
was
he'd do
getting better.
something. Yeah. Najee Harris is still there. George Pickens is slowly evolving. I guess slowly, but
Oh, and they
he's-
got Allen Robinson.
they have Allen Robinson. They still have Deontay Johnson. Pat Fryermuth is still there at tight end. They improved the offensive line. I mean, they drafted Broderick Jones first overall, but other than that, they signed a couple guys that not big names, but solid offensive linemen. They still have Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, and T.J. Watt coming off the line, which is just a scary offensive line or defensive line to deal with. They inside linebacker wise, they signed Cole Holcomb from the Commanders, which solid inside linebacker to play against. Defensive back wise, they signed Patrick Peterson, which he's like 13 years in the league, but
He's older, but
he could
always
still
been
do.
good.
He's always been good. He can still do something. They still have Minka Fitzpatrick, and they just drafted Joey Porter Jr., so he'll work out there. Their secondary is above average, I'd say. Some names that maybe they're older now, but they still provide service, I guess. So their defense is still, if not better than last year.
Here's the thing. Tomlin has always had a
Yep.
not losing season. So he's had some 8-8s when it was, 16 game thing. And that's been with some not great rosters after Ben Roethlisberger was gone, or at the end of Ben Roethlisberger for sure. And there's probably a little more optimism, but they play in such a strong division right now. Like I think Watson and what's going on in the Browns is better than it's been in a while. Will be.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't play better than Jacoby Brissett last year, but I think this year he better for
Hopefully.
their sake. And the Bengals and the Ravens are both tough teams. I think that's going to make it harder for the Steelers to look so good. But let's go through these. Week 1, San Francisco at home at the Steelers.
It's a loss.
I think they lose their opener at home.
Oh yeah, like we've kept saying about the 49ers, like the 4 or 5 times we've talked about them this video. That defense is scary, as Brandon would say. But I mean, they've been able to work everything out with the weirdest quarterback situation I've seen in the last couple of years, and it somehow it works, and I think it continues to work. Whoever's starting.
Yeah, I think Pickett. It's hard to go Pickens and Pickett on the same team. Pickett, right, is the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he's like showing improvement, but that's like a really tough start. I think San Francisco will beat them. Cleveland Brown, we already said would lose to them, right? Like the Browns here.
The Browns would lose, yeah.
So we're saying that's a win for the Steelers. And then Las Vegas Raiders.
I think they win the next two. Again. I just don't know who. We don't even know. Like we thought we would know, but we don't know who the Raiders quarterback would be. And even then, I just don't think they have a good enough defense to. I mean, they have comparable offenses, Raiders and Steelers, but I just don't think they have a good enough defense to stop the Steelers, where the Steelers have a great defense and they can easily shut down the Raiders' offense.
So we probably will say they're going to have a win at Houston also.
He's back.
Right now it's scary because we're saying the Colts and Houston are losing a lot. And that's kind of what all the people in the media are saying too. I'm hoping that changes for the Indy, but I do think Houston's lose this one. It's weird. If I think about like where there could be an upset nobody expects, it might be there.
Right here.
It might be right there. But I think for now, I'm going to go ahead and give them week 4 as a win. I think week 5 we already have as a loss for them. We had the Ravens beating them there. Then they get their bye week. And then LA.
I think they lose. The Steelers lose.
You think the Steelers lose here?
I think this is where, like, right week 5, week 6, whatever. I mean, it's week 7 for the Steelers, but week 5 or 6 is right around the time where Matt Stafford starts clicking again. Cooper Kupp starts feeling like he's, a top receiver again. Aaron Donald's still there. I know they lost pieces, but I think this is against an average team or a team that's not a threat, like a big time threat like the Bengals. But a threat, not a bad team, but not a good team, either, not a great team either. You know what I mean? Like right in the middle. This is a team, the Steelers, where the Rams can actually get in their groove again. And I think this is a win for the Rams.
Okay. What do you think about that, Brandon? You're back. Brandon's back with us here.
Yeah, thank you. I had
Brandon, we made some very iffy choices while you were gone, not knowing how you would break a tie.
Oh yes. So we flipped the coin. Yeah, we flipped the coin.
So.
All right. I trust the coin flip. That's probably more accurate than us right now.
What do you think here about week 7? Steelers is who we're on now, and they're playing
I think Steelers
at Los
win.
Angeles. You think the Steelers win
Los
there?
Angeles. I do. That's my vote. I understand Matthew Stafford starting to click. That's also the time where Matthew Stafford could get injured.
Yeah.
That's also the time where Cooper Kupp tears his Achilles.
Yeah.
That's it's hard for me
It'll
to
go either way.
Just Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are going to do a bunch because Tyler Higbee really doesn't do much.
No.
And we saw that offense all pieced together without Matthew Stafford at high functioning, and they were a bottom 5 team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And so I think Pittsburgh goes in and they don't allow a high scoring game.
It's tough because I see the two defenses having a big say in this. Aaron Donald with the Los Angeles Rams getting after Pickett, and then of course Watt and company getting after Matthew Stafford.
I think the secondary of Pittsburgh is going to be the difference in this game. The Pittsburgh secondary, in my opinion, is a top 5 secondary in the NFL. Okay. And so being able to hold down any options for Matthew Stafford and giving time for TJ Watt to go after him is the clear winner.
It's a tough one for me. What do I think is going to happen when the Steelers go to SoFi Stadium in week 7? I think the Rams are going to win that one. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to go with I think that would be a loss for our Steeler team I'm putting here because we have 2 of us lost. But noted that Brandon said he did not agree with that. What about week 8? Jacksonville Jaguars. They go against the Jaguars.
I think they lose.
Yeah, lose to the Jags.
I'm going to agree with that. Tennessee Titans.
They
Beat
win.
Tennessee.
They beat Tennessee.
I agree with that also. Green Bay Packers.
They lose.
This is the first Green Bay game.
Yeah, that's
we've had.
right. That's right.
So
I
you
need to
got back
put
in
this out
time.
there. The Packers, we talk and we set a goal for the season on how many games we're going to win. Spoiler alert, it's 18. So
You guys have just decided that?
yeah, and there's only 17 games in the season. We're going to win an extra game. Like that's how good we're going to be. So
Okay.
Packers win.
What do you think about that, Josh?
Wow, it's tough.
It's another thing that's really going to come down to the defense.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think both offenses are.
I think there's
pretty
3 things,
comparable.
yeah, to go into consideration. A, are both quarterbacks like, both of them are unproven. Jordan Love more unproven because Kenny Pickett played, at least 3/4 of a season. But are both quarterbacks, ready to go? Are they good, et cetera, et cetera? And B, how does that defense go against that other opposing offensive line? And I just think the Packers have a more rounded team right now, and I think the Packers win.
Okay, you guys decided, because in my mind, I think this is one where the Steelers beat the Packers here. But we had 2 of them that said Steelers would win this, right? I mean, would lose this. So we're putting that as a loss. Okay, Cleveland Browns. I think we already said the Cleveland Browns would win here.
Yeah,
And so this
Cleveland
is a
wins
loss for
at
them.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bengals.
Bengals
I
with
think
a
we
loss.
already said
Whoa.
would probably win here. Let me check. Yeah, we did, right? So this is
Yeah.
a loss for them.
Did we go through the Bengals schedule already? Did I
We
miss
Yeah,
that?
you missed.
it.
Oh,
We're
You
at
missed
the
the
very
Bengals.
end
You missed
here.
the Bengals and Browns.
Bengals and
this
Browns
is
are
our
done.
last schedule?
Yeah, we're an hour and 16 into this thing. We've been moving.
I was thinking we were going to have 2 hours left. All right.
So we're at week 13. Arizona Cardinals. I think they will win.
Cardinals lose.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals lose. I mean, we predict them to lose every single time in the last 4 games or last 4 teams or whatever, and I don't think it stops.
Guys, if our predictions so far on these 4 teams in this division are true, then the Cardinals, Titans, Texans, and Colts are going to go winless this year, because we just get to them and we're automatically like, they lose.
Yeah,
All right. How about against the New England Patriots in week 14?
I think they lose.
This is another tough one for me. The Patriots are another team that are very wishy-washy and uncertain right now. And so this one might just be whoever wins the toss at the beginning of the game.
I think I'm going to go.
What are we at? We're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I'm
this
gonna go.
is-
I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. I'll give them.
yeah. I think
I'll
the
give them home
Patriots.
field
I think
advantage.
the Patriots lose also.
Okay, so we're giving this as a win. I think I'd agree with that. 15, this is a TBD time. What does that mean? To be
Based off
determined.
flexing and stuff. But
Flexing and such. Right now, the Colts have absolutely no primetime games because they believe that much in us. But I do think that this is
a
one
win.
where the Colts are going
I
to
do too.
surprise
I was going to say that.
Pittsburgh, and the Colts are going to win this one, I think. I haven't said that yet about a Colts game. This
I'll
is
go
not
with you,
like-
Matthew. Colt.
This-
I do too.
Colts
I think this is the one we win.
Yeah. This is not just Homer talking. I think this is one where
I mean, they did it against the
Pittsburgh-
Chiefs last year, and we all thought. I mean, I remember I was with you on that game, and you're like, it was like come down to the final seconds or whatever, and you're like, oh, we're gonna lose, we're gonna blow it, and they got to stop on defense or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think they lose out the rest of the season.
I think they win
think,
against Seattle. I can't remember what we picked. I think we picked a loss for the Bengals. I can't remember.
16. We did pick that the Bengals lose this one to the Steelers late.
Wait,
So
let's hop back to that discussion now that I am in here. All right.
I don't think we flipped a coin for this one either. I think we both got it, so you're still outnumbered.
Oh. I just
We,
I don't see Cincinnati losing a divisional game this year.
What do you want to hear? Whenever we get done, you can hear the records, and one of them's pretty.
Yeah, I'm
far
excited
off.
to hear the records here.
And one of them's kind of,
Couple of
I could maybe be convinced at a change on this one.
Yeah, it
maybe.
depends on how depends on their record in the season. You know what I mean? If it's like 5-7, and they're still trying to win, get a winning season from Mike Tomlin, I can see them winning. But if they're like 9-8 or whatever, and they're still playing for playoffs, but I can see them losing at a higher chance.
See, I see it as this is the point in the season where Cincinnati is knocking on the door if they're going to be the first seed.
That's what I think we were saying to get that for another team, the Bengals also.
And I don't really think there's an AFC East. Well, Buffalo's the AFC East.
Yeah,
team. I don't see an AFC South team knocking on the door for the first.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be in the next mix between Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Kansas City for that first seed, and Cincinnati has to win out to get that position.
I would be okay with us revising that game in both columns, putting this as a win for the Bengals and a loss for the Steelers.
Okay. I can see that. I'll agree with that.
All right, so we're changing that.
What do we have them in week 18 though against Baltimore?
Well, that doesn't. This is the Pittsburgh. I was fighting for Cincy.
I know. I'm just asking what we have for them.
We have Baltimore winning against the Steelers in the last game.
Baltimore at home.
I can see that. Last chance for the playoff. Yeah.
But I do think Lamar Jackson's not going to play that last game.
We were saying that too.
Yep.
He's never finished a season.
Yep.
We did talk about that. What about week 17 though?
At Seattle wins.
I do.
I agree.
Okay. I can go either way. So yeah. I mean, I'm outnumbered, but I can go either way.
Ooh. We've laid out this for the Steelers as a 6-win season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got a 6-win season, which would be a first for Mike Tomlin. That's what, 6 and I don't even know what the other number
11.
would be. It's like I never go that way. 6 and 9. Okay, so here's what we have. We have an 8-9 season for the Ravens.
I think that's fair.
That's fair.
We have
I mean,
a 14-3 season for the Bengals with that switch that we made.
That's about where I had them at.
I do too. 13-4.
13-4 before, which felt kind of right, but maybe 14-3 also feels okay.
I think that, yeah.
Browns, we have at a 9-8. So we have
the
Ravens at an 8-9 season and the Browns at a 9-8, if you can believe that.
I don't know if I agree with that.
And then the Steelers at a 6-11.
I think the Steelers get one or two more wins. It just depends on how, who's playing, how they're playing, whatever, but we don't know. So, I mean, maybe we're, fortune tellers or whatever.
We're being rough on the Steelers. And here's what I said just a few moments ago. I think the Steelers had just an average team last year, and Mike Tomlin pulled them to getting enough wins to be above 800 or above 500. But even with a little bit of improvement, they're just in a strong division. Mm-hmm. And the truth is somebody's got to win those division games. And then, you look at their out of division games. This could be a harder year for the Steelers, even though they're a little better maybe than they were last year.
Now, let me ask this. So we have them right now comped at a 6-win season.
Yes.
We do.
They get 6 wins. Let's say something happens and they fire Mike Tomlin.
Not a chance.
I know that's hard to believe. It's really hard to believe because he's one of the most proven NFL coaches we've had in our lifetimes.
And of course, Pittsburgh only has ever had 3 coaches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they would need to find their coach for the next 2 decades. Where does Mike Tomlin go? Does Belichick retire and he goes to New England?
He could
fire whoever they're going to think about putting in and hire Mike Tomlin. Because I feel like some organizations would be like, Mike Tomlin.
I think.
Why do I feel like
he goes to Oakland or Las Vegas?
Did Mike Tomlin start in Pittsburgh the same time somebody from Pittsburgh went to Arizona?
You think Wisenhunt?
Wisenhunt. I think you might be right.
He started in 2007. Mike Tomlin did. And the only reason I remember Wisenhunt is because they played each other in that Super Bowl in 2008 or whatever. And I think he was hired that year.
What I remember is thinking somehow they were connected. And so part of me is like, would he go to Arizona? Would Tomlin then go to Arizona and try and build something there? That's not a great place.
I was thinking Ken Wisenhunt, but it's actually Bruce Arians was the offense coordinator in 2007 when he started.
Offensive coordinator for who?
Steelers. Bruce Arians.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can't remember. So when did Tomlin start as
07.
head coach? Okay, 07. And then who was Arizona's head coach in 07? Processing, looking up.
Yep.
Googling.
Yeah,
Googling.
just technical difficulties. There it is. Arizona Cardinals. Ken Wisenhunt.
Wisenhunt. Yep. So that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Wisenhunt went to Arizona. Tomlin was hired on, and it was like unsure. They
Yeah.
thought Wisenhunt might stay in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So anyway, for some reason, my brain went to, oh, maybe he would try to go to Arizona. Not that I think there's anything great in Arizona to draw him there. I would not want to be Kyler Murray's coach. I don't really believe in Kyler Murray like all that much. It's like, I think Brandon's the one that always like calls him like a little kid running with candy.
Oh my God.
That's him.
Watch him run on the field. It's like chasing a kid with candy, and you're as a parent being like, no, spit that candy out. And he's saying, no, I'm going to run away from you.
So anyway, yeah. Well, real quick, I'm just going to, I'm going to do this. If I can find my mouse on my screen here, we're going to click over to, I guess I'm already there. Wait, is this the Bengals? Yeah, so this is the Bengals. I just kind of want to tell you what we didn't look at the preseason. I want to tell you kind of what these were because you said you wanted to revisit. So I'm just going to run through what we did here. We had them winning against the Browns, winning against the Ravens, winning against Los Angeles, winning against the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. Week 6, we had them winning against Seattle Seahawks, going into a bye undefeated.
Now here's the game that gets interesting.
We had them losing against San Francisco at San Francisco. And we had them losing to the Buffalo Bills.
I agree with that as well.
We had them winning at the Texans, winning against Baltimore in Baltimore. We had them winning against Pittsburgh, winning against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and against the Colts. We had them winning against Minnesota, and then we changed this one just now with you. And we have them winning against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. We had them losing that one earlier. And then we had them losing to the Kansas City Chiefs closely. Mm-hmm. And then winning against the Cleveland Browns at the end, coming to a 14-3 season. We'll give you the Browns real quick because you didn't get to see that one. Also, this is kind of a recap.
Stay on Cincinnati and go to the preseason.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to announce something really quick.
All right.
Once we see it on screen here.
All right. Is this
Cincinnati, the one we were just on.
Pittsburgh.
Sorry, I went to a different thread. Okay.
Matthew was too productive. Too
productive. All right, here we are.
Week 1, preseason. Green Bay goes to Cincinnati. We are also doing joint practices with Cincinnati. That's the team we're joining with. And so just that little announcement there. People go get
So that's happening. We did agree that pretty much preseason doesn't matter. And we
except for the Ravens.
Call those games.
Nobody
except for the Ravens. That's right.
Right. All right. So quickly, we'll look at a recap of the Browns just to let Brandon know what we did here. Let's go back to the beginning. Again, preseason we didn't say too much about, but they don't even have their preseason.
They don't have a
on here.
preseason, yeah.
But here's what we said. We had a loss to the Bengals and a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh for the Browns, a win against Tennessee, and a win against Baltimore early.
Yeah, so they're 2-2 going into the bye.
2-2 going into the bye. Then we had a loss at San Francisco because of that defense. We had a win against Indianapolis, as much as I hate it. And I think this is one where I'm like, man, I don't know. And I was like really unsure.
I think I was torn on it too. But
I think I put a loss in Seattle.
We do have a loss in Seattle.
Okay.
And we have a win against Arizona. We have a loss against the Ravens at Baltimore. So we have them losing there. We had them splitting, it looks like. Pittsburgh, we had them winning against Pittsburgh here. The Browns beating Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at home. We had them winning against the Broncos. We had them winning against the Rams. We had them losing to Jacksonville in week 14.
I see that.
And then we had them beating the Bears,
Destroying.
beating the Texans, and then we had them losing to the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers coming in and beating them.
Now, the thing to note with the Jets, are they going to stop Aaron at 64.9% of snaps and sit him the rest of the season? Because that's at the point of the season where he would have already had to be past that 65% mark. So
my guess is they're going to be fighting for playoffs.
Yep.
And no, they're not going to rest him because they're all in on winning. And
all right.
I think they're not going to sit him much. I mean, and that's what you want. You don't want him sitting him, right?
No, I want him to play the whole season. But that's
Right.
that's
And
the
I think
angle
they
we got.
will. I think they will. And so we had a loss to the Jets and a loss to the Bengals, putting the Browns at 9-8. So overall records, we have the Ravens going 8-9, the Bengals going 14-3, the Browns going 9-8, and the Steelers going 6-11, coming in last place. So Bengals first place, Steelers last place, with the Browns in second place. Not what you would normally expect when you look at Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, but just because of who they play, this is how we have it going here on the Football Fandemic. Is there anything that we want to say about the AFC North before we end today? We are at an hour and a half, hour and 31.
Actually,
closing comments.
Nothing about the AFC North, but I just wanted to get. I know we've gone long, but I just want to get into the Homer team Mount Rushmore real quick. Just name 4 players that you think deserve to be on your Mount Rushmore of team.
Can we do anyone that's ever been associated with the organization? Not just players, but coaches.
Yeah, I was thinking we do 4. I was thinking we do 4 players and then 1 head coach to lead that. So technically 5, but 1 head coach to lead those 4 players, I guess.
Okay, so you're putting 5 heads on Mount Rushmore.
4 heads and then 1 guy on top.
The overseer of those 4 heads.
The overseer
That's
of
right.
Mount Rushmore. So, all right. So who wants to start?
Let's go alphabetically. Colts.
Colts. This is all
Colts
off the top of my
Commanders.
head because I haven't planned this at all, but I think obviously you would go with Unitas, Peyton Manning. Dungy would be
top guy.
up there. And then that's where it gets a little more like, because loved Andrew Luck, but he just played so short. I don't know if he would actually make the Rushmore, which is sad because I think Luck was so good. Oh, Ryan Grigson ruined him. I think you also have to look at this gets tough because I think of all my favorite players: Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Freeney, and Mathis, and Bob Sanders. And you look at all these guys, when I think, and then, you get back in the old days, and I didn't get to watch them as much, so they don't carry that same weight. So how many do I have? I have
Manning and Unitas.
Unitas, Manning. Whew. It's hard for me to decide between Edgerrin James, Marvin Harrison, and Dwight Freeney in that last 2, and then I think you got to have Tony Dungy at the top. So I'm not gonna narrow it down. Well, maybe I will, just because I have to. You got 2 quarterbacks. If I go 2 other players, I think I'm gonna go Harrison and Edge. That's all offense. Sorry, Freeney and Mathis, and Bob Sanders. All those were defense, and they were in my thoughts. But I look at it as when you look at the Hall of Fame, you even have those 2, Edge and Harrison, and you don't yet have Freeney. You don't yet have
Mathis or Wayne or
any of those. So I'll stop there. What about who's next? That'd be Packers, right?
Commanders. Sticking with C's.
Colts, Commanders.
They're not.
Colts.
Yeah. I think up top you have to have Dan Snyder, of course.
What?
You have to have Joe Gibbs. You gotta have
Like
Joe
if
Gibbs.
you put Dan Snyder on your Rushmore, I'm going to call you out on everything you've ever said.
The overseer, the head coach, whatever you want to call it, it's got to be Joe Gibbs.
Gibbs, gotta be.
Yep.
Well, that was the Redskins, not the Commanders.
The Redskins, Commanders, the football team, whatever.
All right, lump them all together.
Yeah, we'll put them as a trio. So I have 4. I guess I have 12 guys on my Rushmore because for each team. But I'm just kidding. Joe Gibbs is the overseer. Theismann is one of them, definitely. Riggins and Sean Taylor. I know he didn't play long, kind of like Bob Sanders, but Sean Taylor is like one of those guys who are like, if he didn't get, I guess, killed. But for Bob Sanders, it was injured. But if he didn't get, have a short career, what could he have been? He's like one of those guys that like if you're a Redskins, you're like, hey, on Reddit or whatever, like, hey, what do I do to become a Redskins fan? Or I'm just becoming a fan. What should I do? And he's like, everybody's like, all you got to do is just look at Sean Taylor highlights and you're in. And that's all. That's what everybody's pretty much said. So Sean Taylor's on there.
Okay.
And then my last one, I know there's other guys you could put on like Riggins and probably, like luck, RG3. I know he had a short career. I'm not going to put him, but.
Oh, I know who you're going to say here.
Do you?
Albert Hainsworth. Oh, wait.
But I think my guy, from a personal standpoint of who, like why, like one of the reasons I got into the Redskins as a whole was Santana Moss, which happy birthday, Santana Moss. It's his birthday
Santana
today.
Moss. Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. How about Packers?
See, this is tough because only picking 4 players out of the most historic team in NFL history is not easy. But I've split it up. I'm going 2 defense, 2 offense. Overseeing all of them, I think it's a no-brainer. Vince Lombardi as the face of the Packers. Right. 5 championships in 7 years, 2 of them being Super Bowls 1 and 2. Easy pick. I'm going to start. The first face on Mount Rushmore is Reggie White, without a doubt. And we talked about this a little bit. My other defensive player, I'm going to go Charles Woodson. I don't think I've seen such an explosive, raw talent guy that literally everyone hated and had to be cooled down like that. Just a different guy. Offense, this is tough because everyone, when they talk about Mount Rushmore of Green Bay Packers, it always starts with the 3 quarterbacks: Aaron Rodgers, Bart Starr, Brett Favre. I'm going to stick 1 quarterback on there. It's going to be Bart Starr.
Yeah, the guy that started it all. Yeah, I can see
the guy
that.
that started it all. The guy that was nothing. The original team player.
The original Brady. Wasn't he like pick 15 or something, or pick round 15 or whatever?
Yeah, round 15.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And my last person, and this is tough. I'm going to go receiver Don Hudson, the guy that made the NFL receiving today what it is.
Wow. There are so many Packers fans who would be just amazed that you didn't put Rodgers or Favre on.
And it's nothing against them. It's really not. But I've said it a million times.
I think it's just that
more times.
Brandon sees those 2 guys, Favre and Rodgers, more as Jets quarterbacks than Packers quarterbacks. Because Starr never played for the Jets. He just played for the Packers his whole career.
We have legendary Vikings quarterback Brett Favre. He's undergoing lawsuits and scandals and everything. Legendary Vikings quarterback. Let's get that straight.
He'll be on the Vikings Mount Rushmore.
And then current media. New York media personnel, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So I picked some Wisconsin guys.
Oh, how fain the fickle.
Now, there's other people that if I just went personally, how much I love them. AJ Dillon is on there. You got Nick Collins.
You would put Dillon over Devontae Adams.
I do love Devontae Adams, but I only just named 2 people. There's 4 people in there.
I noticed you don't name anybody who leaves the Packers and goes somewhere else.
Jordy Nelson. I would put Jordy Nelson on there.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Mount Rushmore for the 3 homer teams. You've got our AFC North predictions, which may or may not be right because this is very early, but we're going to move on next week to the AFC East. So join us again. We're going to go through Aaron Rodgers and some other fun stuff then on the Football Fandemic.